What did you notice in that exploration of death? Like, it's
Oh,
through the taking of a life, then the recognition of your own life
yeah,
having an expiration date.
right.
Yeah. What was that like?
It made me a lot more intentional about how I was spending my energy and awareness, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
So, when I first started like contemplating this, and I was like, it's the worst thing you can think about. It's like so uncomfortable because it's such a big question and so many unknowns.
It's a sad question too, because
It is.
I noticed when I went deep down the tunnel, I guess, or whatever
Yeah.
it is of mortality, it made me really grieve each moment so much more. Because then I'm like, oh, well, this moment will never happen again. It also really demands presence,
Yeah. Forces it. Yeah.
This is why I think we have such a hard time handling relational endings or endings in general, because we haven't sat with big D death. So like small D deaths are, and I think part of, you use that term, which I hadn't heard before. So like snowplow parenting or
snowplow parenting. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like helicopter parenting on steroids for
But it's
those
like
unaware.
clearing the way. Is that right?
The idea is clearing the way. A great example of that would be those college scandals in the UC system where parents just paid their kids' way to get into all these hard colleges. Yeah, it's like plowing every single problem out of a kid's way.
Yeah, and I, coming back also to what we were talking about in terms of when you haven't experienced the need for grit and resilience because you haven't even experienced small D deaths. Like you don't even know disappointment, and disappointment means there's something wrong with the person or the circumstance, not your behavior. I mean, it's all so correlated. Yeah, I'm like, so when you explore death, like, I mean, you're also out. You could die where you were. I mean, you kind of broke your second rule, I guess. Like, don't die. But
That would have broken.
I guess you're with that guy. Sounds like he could survive with anything.
He was like, he made me feel a lot better about being out there because like something would be happening and I would be like, oh man, this is sketchy as hell. And I'd look over at him and he's just kind of do. I'm like, oh, okay, we must be all right.
That's like when I check flight attendants on planes.
Yeah.
And they're like,
yeah.
All right, we're not dying.
Yeah, exactly. A lot like that. No, it's interesting. And as part of the book afterwards, I traveled to Bhutan, which is an interesting place because it's one of the least developed countries on earth, but it's also consistently ranks as one of the happiest. So to give you a sense
in
of
the blue zone. Is it a blue zone?
I don't know if it's a blue
remember.
zone. There's not a stoplight in the entire country. There's no outside businesses, but yeah, they're happy. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And one of them, researchers think, is that the people in Bhutan are instructed to think about death every single day. And there's reminders of death everywhere in the country. So when people die, their ashes get mixed with clay and turned into these like pyramids. They're about that big. And these pyramids are all over. Like you go around a road bend and there'll be like 300 of them. You're walking through the main city and like every windowsill has a bunch of them. So there's this constant reminder of death.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And so I go there and I speak with a guy who is a Kempo in the Buddhist faith, which is, I guess it would be kind of akin to like a cardinal. He lives in this like crazy cliffside shack and we have to like drive up this insane road to get there. And I got to hike in. And this guy wrote a book called The Fine Art of Living and Manifesting a Peaceful Death. So he's like this death expert, right? And the way that he put it to me, and by the way, this is like some shit from a movie that I walk into. I mean, this is like some Indiana Jones like scene. I mean, the dude is like in this shack that has no running water, electricity. And I like peel back this orange drape and there's like this statue of the Buddha on one side with these incense and he's like sitting in the lotus position in his orange robes. And it's just like,
it's like
what
straight up.
This is insane. It was wild. What he said that stuck with me most is he's like, okay, I want you to pretend that you are walking down a trail. And in 500 yards, this trail has a cliff. Well, the cliff is death. And you are actually on the trail right now. You're walking the trail right now. Every one of us is going to walk off that cliff. And then he looks at me and he goes, don't you want to know there's a cliff there? Because if you know there's a cliff, it's going to change how you walk the trail. You're going to have different conversations with the people you're walking the trail with. You're going to take in the nature around the trail. You're going to savor each step on the trail. In the US, we often don't want to know that there's a cliff there.
Yeah.
We just kind of keep walking and then, went off
Yeah.
it. But in Bhutan, by thinking about death, people understand there's a cliff there and it changes their behavior, right? And I think that works for anyone if you're willing to sort of take death into your mind and let it guide your behavior. Because what tends to happen, and this has been shown in research on this topic, people report that thinking about death was exceedingly uncomfortable in the short term, but it made them happier in the long term because it helped them make better decisions. So when you realize you're going to die, you're like, probably not going to get as worked up about dumb shit that we all tend to, right?
Yeah.
It might align like, what do I really want to be doing with my time? Like if you're in a job that you absolutely hate, but you just kind of feel like, well, I don't know about that one thing. Like maybe you're willing to take the little bit of a risk that you need to like improve your life. Like all these different things. Maybe it's going to have you appreciate your loved ones more and tell them that.
Yeah.
That's going to improve those relationships. So it can kind of have this ripple effect on behavior that seems to improve people's lives.